Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. Now in this video we are going to be talking about some sneaky scorers, okay? The main crux of the video will be looking at guys based in Europe because we've just got much more fixtures ahead of us for those guys than the other regions that we have access to. But I will have at the end of the video a little MLS playoff kind of 2 or 3 little picks that you might want to consider if you're going to be going down that way. If you already have MLS cards and you're worried about the playoffs, maybe not getting the maximum utility of what you've got, maybe these 1 or 2 cards might help you supplement. If you're new around here, you haven't joined SoRare yet, links down below. Get your extra 100 million quids to draft your commons. You'll get 500 million in total to get 10 free commons with, and you'll get a free rare as well. If you haven't already, sub to the channel, like, share, retweet, all that good stuff. Stay out of trouble, and let's get stuck into it. Now for me, this guy is probably the poster child of sneaky scorers. I got the guy as a reward, which I wasn't really too chuffed with at the time. He's a name that'll be familiar to Premier League fans. He's been around England for a little while. He's a youth prospect at Man United. But look at his last 5 and his last 15 average. He's doing really well. Royal Antwerp are having a good season. They're in the Europa League this year, which caught some people off by surprise. This guy's like 30, 31, which is why historically, if you look at the 1 month and the 2 week average, he's been really cheap. The last couple of days, of course, he's became a little bit more expensive because those scores are starting to show and starting to hit. But this is a guy who, and when we're talking about sneaky scorers and you're looking to get your gallery built and try and get some action made, you do want to try and unearth these little guys who they're not under 23, they're not even under 30 in some cases, you know, but they play every week, they can do a consistent score, and if the team gets a good run of form, nice bounce of fixtures, whatever it might be, then they're in a prime position to go and hit those plus 70 scores for you to actually try and get you into the big prize pots and onto the podium itself. So Richie Delat, for me, the best price on the market now is 0.149. And again, if you were to find them on auction, I wouldn't be too surprised you could maybe catch him around the 0.1 mark as well. But again, you know, there's another guy, no, he's not at Antwerp, it's somebody else, but you're always looking for that little guy who nobody else has heard of. You can snipe really super cheap and get him into a lineup. So number 1 is Richie Delat. Now, I'm only actually exposed to this guy because I have him as a common, and I still think, looking at his market price now, best offer on the market as we record is 0.1. is mad cheap. He's left Standard Liège, he's at Torino. He's starting to play more and more. When you look at his history, you know, he's limited now because obviously Torino's not a licensed club. There's not that many of them in circulation. But look at his scores, man. Nice, eh? Not bad for 0.1. That's 30 quid. The guy's young. He's a Kosovo international, so if we get international access, Kosovo in the Nations League, they'll be against all the kind of minnows. So you're thinking maybe a wee bit further afield for this guy. But look at that set of scores. I might even just go and buy that one at 0.1 now. Maybe not. But the scores you see there, especially the 22 and the 28, those were off the bench. I can almost guarantee that from looking at them before making the video. But yeah, sneaky scorer. This guy's been right under the radar because he is at Torino. He's not at a club. And when you're on SoRare, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the licensed clubs and their current roster of players and try and find them. What you should try and do now and again is try and access the transfer list and see who they've just sold, where they went to. Are they playing? Have they actually been up a level? You know, going from Belgium to Torino is definitely a step up. Is he playing? Is he making a contribution? Yes, he is. How much can I get him for? Wow, brilliant. Jackpot. Voice Voida. Now, this guy has been in a video before, so sorry, but he's starting to break into that Sassuolo team now. And if you look at the last couple of games where he started, I think he started these last 3 matches. Scores are amazing, you know. So what will happen and why this guy is under the radar at the moment is his last 5 average. Yeah, it's okay. It's definitely not eye-catching. But if he gets 2 more performances in line with the last 3, you'll see that last 5 average is really going to shoot up, and subsequently the prices of him will as well. All you need to do is look at Richie Delat at the beginning of the video. His last 5 average is over 70. So his price is about 0.149 or something like that it was, wasn't it? This guy is much younger, much more ahead of him in terms of his career, much more value. He is limited. He's left Marseille. It might be a loan deal. I think it's a transfer to Sassuolo. But again, clubs like Sassuolo, like I said in the last video about Maxime Lopez, you could easily leave Sassuolo and go to Lazio, Inter Milan, AC Milan. You could easily go to a bigger and better team. And if you've already got him, check out the new Don video that I've done. He's at a high level. then even if it was to be reissued further down the road, you're not actually going to lose too much of that kind of inherent value in him, because he'll be at a high level because you've had him since now, ranking him up that whole time when if he was to transfer out, move to another club, blah blah blah, you know what I'm saying. But Maxime Lopez at the moment is definitely going under the radar. He's sneaking right under there in the last 3 games. Just go to show you that when this guy's playing in that Sassuolo team in that midfield, he's going to be another sneaky scorer for us as well. Now this one comes to us courtesy of the community. I think it was Leeds Are We, or it might have been, I'm pretty sure it is Leeds Are We, that highlighted this guy on a Twitter thread that I've seen, and he is absolutely killing it, man. You know, when Dynamo Moscow got IPO'd, and even when Krasnodar, I'm not really too interested in them, but there's players in those teams, man. You know, there really is. The price he's hovering about at the now is not off-putting to me at all when you consider the guy is 23. Dynamo Moscow, I don't think, are in Europe this year, so he's not going to play as often as some other guys, but he's got 1 red score there. He's got a few DNPs. You could probably go and look right into it and find out why, but only 1 red in the last, that must be 40 game weeks or more easily. The amount of greens isn't, there's a lot of them, especially recently. There's not that many of them, but to only have 1 red, this guy's got a solid, what we would call in Planet Index, PB base, you know, where you know this guy, he is hitting 40. No problem. He is hitting 40. If they win, if they keep a clean sheet, if he gets a key pass, a goal involvement, whatever, he has the potential to really shoot up in something like this. All you really need to do is look at a little bit similar, a little bit different, but the Miranchuk that left Moscow and went to Atalanta, you know, he was in that kind of same mold as well, where you knew every game week he was going to do okay. And these guys in the Russian league, they do transfer. You know, Russia isn't, you know, it's not the best league in the world. Dynamo Moscow and these guys are great clubs to play for, but they're not the Premier League, they're not La Liga, they're not the Bundesliga, they're not Serie A. They will sell their players at some point if they're good enough and the bids come in to these more illustrious clubs, these more illustrious leagues. So this guy has definitely got great scope for growth. If I haven't credited the right person with whoever kind of highlighted them to me, I'm terribly sorry. Please comment down below, but I'm pretty sure I nailed it. So Daniel Fomin. This is probably the only guy I was close to picking up from Krasnodar. He's still super cheap. He's 25, just Sweden international, and yeah, you know, Krasnodar are in Europe. He's got a lot of greens there. They've not really trapped since Krasnodar have IPO'd on SoRare, which was only a week ago or something. And I think, pardon me, once you start to see this guy getting a last 5 average, like if you look at this little cluster here, game week 83, 88. Oh yeah, maybe they didn't have games, sorry. So 64, 83, 57 and 58. Even coupled with that red 32 or that orange 36. If you have a last 5 average of those 4 greens and then either way there, you could definitely see this guy's, you know, best market price triple easily, you know. Being Swedish as well, the Swedes travel well, you know, there's Sweden internationals almost in every country around Europe, you know, France, Spain, Italy, you know, the UK. So yeah, really decent little guy. He's going to have a lot of utility for you in the Challenger Europe, and obviously he's got European competition on top of that as well, the global. And yeah, I think this guy, the scores aren't quite there for the last 5 average, but once Krasnodar's, you know, once they get a run of fixtures that are favourable to them, this guy's a key contributor, and you can see the matches they win and they dominate. You know, this guy can shoot 60 plus, relatively straightforward. Now I'm going to put a wee special mention in. I did a J-League starter card video. This was one of my favourite guys that came from it, and since we've did the video, you want to see his scores? He's shot 100, you know, and an 86. I can't remember when the video got done, but if you picked him up on the back of the video, well done to you. I'm sure you'll be absolutely buzzing with your decision to watch the videos and be subscribed to the channel, so well done to you. He's still quite cheap. I didn't really want to, you know, talk about him in this video, but I just thought I'd give him a wee nod since he shot 100 after the video was released. Now, Schalke are probably my most hated team on SoRare in terms of, like, they're just crap for the now. But this guy, for a striker, he's scoring pretty well, you know, despite, you know, their last couple of fixtures, Schalke, they're starting to pick up some draws. They've had, I think they lost to Dortmund. They lost that big team, but they're starting to get some draws. They're starting to get some kind of an act together. And this guy is one of their key players. He's still the main guy up front. And the scores, even though they're rotten, his scores are still pretty hot, man, you know. And one of the most expensive things that you can try and get your hands on is a good champion Europe striker. And for 0.088, You know, if you're new, I don't think you'll be very hard pressed to find somebody that will give you those scores at that price in a Champion Europe lineup. Now again, I've got good exposure to this guy by having him as a common, but I think he's very undervalued. You know, he's 26, right? So he's not going to get into the under 23s. He's probably not going to leave Belgium like a John David did or a Doku. You know, he's probably going to be in Belgium or that kind of level, probably for the rest of his career at 26. But there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's nothing wrong with a player finding their level and excelling at that level. You know, the scores he's got, it's all down to goal contributions. The guy's the main striker. He's very good. He's very, you know, I like him a lot, and I think for the scores that he's able to produce and the price you're looking to get him for, considering how much more of the season we've got to go, I think this guy is definitely a sneaky scorer for a striker. Now, when it comes to strikers, I'll be very hard pressed to tell you a name or show you somebody that you've never seen or heard of before, because there's just, number one, not that, in relative terms, not that many available, and we're all super smart, we're all super eagle-eyed, we look at the stats, we look at the form, who plays for that team, where did he just transfer from? We all do the same stuff. But this guy's price is pretty appealing, around a quarter coin for a guy you know is going to start week in, week out, and you know has the goal record and the appearance record to back up a good level of stability for you. So this is the playoff table for MLS if you haven't seen it already. Okay, so the tempting thing to do is try and find a Nashville, Miami, New England Reds or a Montreal player that you think will be good, and if you believe one of those teams will go far, because they have an extra match. They have to play Nashville versus Miami and Reds versus Montreal to get the chance to play either Philly or Toronto, the winners of their conferences respectively. What you have to do, or what I'm doing for this, right, is I'm picking two clubs that I fancy will go far, and then give you maybe 2 or 3 players between the two of them that will probably serve you quite well. At a glance, personally I'm quite invested in Sporting Kansas and New York and Philly and a bit of LA, I suppose. But I'll tell you right now, despite that side of the draw looking really tough, actually yeah, it is a tough side of the draw. I was going to say don't ever rule out Portland, they're always good in this kind of environment, but after Dallas they've got either Sounders or LAFC, it's going to be tough. And then after that they're probably, in my opinion, going to have Kansas, and then you've got the final against, yeah, so that's a tough side of the bracket. I'm going to be leaning towards Kansas, and I'm probably going to be leaning towards Columbus, to be honest, or maybe Philly. It's really hard. Let's say I picked this guy up recently myself. He's mega cheap. He's 29, you know, so he's in the prime of his career, if you like. He plays every week, and he's a great way to get into that Kansas team. Johnny Russo and Pulido are also quite expensive, but this guy plays, you know, virtually every week, and he's a big part of their play in terms of moving the ball from back to front, left to right, that kind of thing. And for the kind of price you're getting them in and out, I would expect Kansas to get to at least that final on their end of the bracket before the ultimate final itself. And at points 0.065, you can't really go too far wrong. He's a good card hold for next season. Artur for Columbus, again, very similar mould to the Eli we just looked at. Much younger, but Columbus have had probably, you know, Columbus and Kansas have had really good seasons in different ways. Columbus will probably be happier with the way they finished. You know, they finished really top towards the end of the conference seedings, as well as Kansas, of course, he did really well also. But this guy's younger, which will probably excite you, and his peak scores are a bit more frequent and a little bit higher. That's why his price is kind of reflective of that, I suppose. But Artur, I expect Columbus to go far in the playoffs as well, and this guy can be an easy way in. It's really hard not to look at Philly when you look at the season and everything as well. Sergio Santos, the last couple of weeks, is doing amazing for them. And again, look at his price. You know, strikers you expect to pay more. The price will be suppressed a little bit because the amount of fixtures guaranteed is basically just 1 at the moment. You expect him to go far, you think you'll maybe get 3 or 4 fixtures in. You could get him at a nice suppressed price like that, try and capture some prizes along the way, and you've got a good card to hold for next season. These kind of sub scores, it has been rotational for parts of the season, but towards the latter end, his contributions have been immense, and he's starting to actually start a lot more games, basically as a result. So going into the playoffs, he will be a key player for them up front with his work rate, his engine, to bring other players into the game. And yeah, I'm going to finish off with this. Okay, now LAFC haven't had the best of seasons. They're starting to pick up, and they're definitely one of these teams that needs to have their best players on the pitch. You know, Rossi, Vela, Mark Anthony Kaye, Atuesta, Blessing, Tristan Blackman, you know, they need to have their best team out, really, and they're starting to get that way now. Vela's back from injury, Brian Rodriguez is still around, blah blah blah. The reason I want to show you Diego Rossi is his average price since he's been out is just under a coin, right? His price now, like I mentioned in the last one, they will be suppressed because there's not much utility to come out of them in the short term. I expect LAFC to get, you know, as far as possible. They're a big team, they're a big game team with big game players. This guy ticks all the boxes. He's under 23. You know what? He has a chance of leaving MLS in a big transfer. He's definitely a high ticket value player in that respect. And he's had a great season. He's been nominated for almost every award available to him. And his scores are crazy good, you know, they really, really are. So if you are going to go for a top-end striker, you know, don't get me wrong, in the off-season, yeah, that best offer in the market price will probably come down a little bit. But if you get him now, you get access to a couple of games with him. You put him into a global lineup, you put him into under 23 lineup, you could easily capture you some prizes that are well worth it, because having a striker in that age bracket at that price, even if it was for another 2 or 3 games and you're sitting on him until the season restarts, you know, it's not the worst transaction you could carry out, certainly, if you're going to be buying MLS anyway at some point. But I fancy LFC to go far. I've got Carlos Vela myself, so I'm a wee bit biased, I suppose. But Diego Rossi at circa 0.6 is great value, in my opinion. I'm going to finish on an NYFC guy. So, at the moment, in my gallery, if I sort by best average, Jesus Medina comes up top. He really does. So he's in great form now. NYC have started to hit a great vein of form going into the playoffs. You know, we've never been past the quarterfinals. I'm hopeful that, do you know what, if we can win the first game against Orlando, you know, could we beat Philly? It's definitely not beyond the realms of possibilities. And as soon as that happens, the door opens. It's anyone's game to go for. If you're tempted to go for NYCFC, you've got Tinnerholm, you've got Ring, you've got Medina, you get Castellanos. There's a lot of great options there. Medina, for me, is very, very cheap for what he is in the future as well, in terms of a dominant MLS midfield player at 0.14. And again, you know, the way the whole City structure works is it's all feeder teams to feeder teams, you know, so there's nothing to say. You know, you just need to look at like Jack Harrison at Leeds now. You know, he was brought to the UK by City. Yeah, the guy was English, but he started his career at NYCFC as a college super draft pick. So again, there's been other guys that have trod the same path. Aaron Moy from Melbourne City got brought to Man City, loaned out, blah blah blah. This guy, along with Castellanos and maybe 1 or 2 others, could be following that kind of path as well. Highly thought of in South America when they acquired him. But yeah, mind you guys, if you've enjoyed the video, I hope you have. If there's anyone who you think, why the fuck did you not put him in the video, comment him down below, get him on the next one, I promise. Like, subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care, bye bye.